Introduction to Magick of Qabalah by Trobe. This book is intended for practical use as a series of exercises leading the reader up the ever-flourishing tree of life. The relevant psycho-spiritual processes are activated simply by reading the text, or in this case, listening to it. Whichever technique is preferred, the main thing is to experience this living system. Qabalah is not a set of abstract philosophies, but a vibrant information exchange and ladder up the psychological and metaphysical planes. Presented herein is a set of creative visualizations specifically designed to induce direct experiences of the Sephirot, or states of being, and of the paths between them, or processes of becoming. I believe these to have become actual places on the astral and spiritual planes, into which the mind and soul can enter, courtesy of sign, symbol, and conducive wavelength. Though originally a Judaic system of meditation and ascension, the Tree of Life has been adopted by spiritual aspirants as diverse as medieval alchemist, 19th century mage, and modern pop icon. There are many ways to cook an Akashic egg, but the results will always be spirit purple and cosmic. It is the very eclecticism of modern Qabalah, spelled with a Q, as opposed the original Jewish Qabalah spelled with a K, which provides its strongest and most essential features. For modern practitioners, therefore, much of the atmosphere of Orthodox Judaism, its parent tradition, has been absorbed into a much wider field of spiritual practice, incorporating the psycho-spiritual symbology of many philosophies and religions, making it something of a transdimensional reference library, a palpable complete magician's tables, or living 777, to take a cue from Aleister Crowley. Indeed, Crowley is arguably the fertilizer most responsible for the tree's latter-day luster, along with Dion Fortune, whose classic text, the mystical Qabalah, is a cornerstone for any student of Qabalah in the Western mystery tradition. Today's version is as cross-pollinated and diverse as is our current electronic age, the aspect of below, which seems to me to most accurately symbolize what is occurring above. The internet, for example, resembles living telepathy, swiftly transferring and planting cross-breeding concepts and concomitant information, similarly to meditating on a sephira and following the ramifications of the tree's branches. For the esoteric version of this phenomenon, we can thank the psychically avant-garde work of changers of consciousness, such as Crowley, Eliphas Levi, Israel Regardie, MacGregor Mathers, and Dion Fortune, all of whom stimulated the popular magical imagination of the last century, bringing diverse paths together and changing the import of the Qabalah forever. Please note that a concerted effort has been made in this voiceover to aim for at least semi-accurate Hebrew pronunciation. However, it is proving almost impossible to attain this with consistency. So, for a better idea of how to properly pronounce the names of the Sephirot, I suggest you refer to an online resource such as Hebrew for Masons on YouTube. While the system of Qabalah will be charted in depth through the course of this book, a summary of the tradition's structure can be offered here. The Qabalah describes 10 main states of being, the Sephirot, or emanations, and 22 states of becoming, the paths between them. A negative framework for the Sephirot exists in the form of the Qlipoth, or sparks, also known as shards or peels. In conjunction with these negative realms, the Sephirot determine the shape of the Tree of Life, which itself describes the whole of creation, including what existed prior to creation. Each Sephirah, the single of Sephirot, exists under the rule of a different aspect of the Father-Mother God. That is, it represents a particular relationship between the creative intelligence and the created universe. The descent of spirit into matter, the development of duality, and the gradual divorce from our spiritual origin are all demonstrated by the Sephirot as we scale down the Tree of Life on which they sit. The Sephirot also contain all relevant archetypes from world folklore and mythology. For example, Bina, the supernal mother whose name means understanding, encompasses Nuit, Kali, and the other terrible mothers as the givers and breakers of form, as well as Isis and Mary, mother of Christ. As the facet of understanding spans a great many aspects of experience, it follows that Mary's pieta and Kali's apparent wanton destruction can both be ascribed to Bina, particularly as both conform to the vision of sorrow, which is this Sephirah's spiritual experience. and both involve the dissolution of established form and traumatic transition into a new mode of being. Likewise, all sacrificed gods can be ascribed to Tiferet, at the center of the tree, the mystical solar Sephira. All the way up the tree of life, we find that the symbols play a microcosmic role, summarizing every facet of individual experience, along with the macrocosmic archetypal role. This is reflected in the adage, as above, so below. Where did this strange brew that is modern Qabalah derive from? The word itself comes from Hebrew, meaning that which is received. Tradition holds that the teachings were passed from master to student in a chain going back to the archangel Metatron, angel of the presence, who descended from the crown of creation, Keter, to Mount Sinai in order to deliver enlightenment to Moses, the spiritual ancestor of all Jewish rabbis. Most of this occult knowledge was later condensed into glyphs, the first symbols of Etz Hayim, the tree of life. Conveyed by word of mouth from one generation of learned men to another, Kabbalistic teachings were not written down until around 1000 CE. Following the collection and publication of the first texts of the Qabalah in the European Middle Ages, the creed underwent a renaissance. Again, in the 16th century, the development of Qabalah experienced a second flowering. That said, Kabbalistic learning has never been so much a part of the popular mainstream as it is today. In this book, Qabalah will be spelled with a Q to differentiate it from the traditional Jewish Qabalah with a K, its parent, or should I say, its host. Modern Qabalah is a cuckoo child, a former impostor in the nest of Judaism, now an independent fledgling. However, as the foregoing survey of its history reveals, Qabalah has long been subject to diverse influences. Like any living religion, it receives many tributaries, but the river which carries us here is the magical river, and we are dealing with correspondences alien to Judaism, though not to Qabalah itself. As Zev ben Shimon Halevi points out in his book Qabalah, the Divine Plan, the tarot system so often dismissed as irrelevant is actually based on information gleaned from the Zohar, one of the central texts in Qabalah. The major arcana represent the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the 4 suits symbolizing the 4 worlds to be discussed below, and the system is highly conducive to Kabbalistic development. The use of tarot cards as a symbolic system, and the ability to adapt and relate literally anything to part of the tree, may be slightly unorthodox, but it is no less valid. Indeed, in my opinion, it is more valid for being at least partially subjective. Qabalah itself represents a long tradition of thinking in an unconventional and inclusive manner. The Jewish mystery tradition has much to offer in the way of meditation, psychotherapy, psychology, and insight into the ancient folklore that informs the system. But the Western mystery tradition, the focus of this book, encompasses a great deal more. Much that did not belong on the tree at first now does, owing to the input of all who meditate on or activate the various Sephirot. Thus, though Crowley's particular attributions may have borne personal significance for him at the time, their application by others in meditation and magic has since made them real. Basilisks may arise in the mind's eye when Gevura is considered, though they originally had no place on the tree. Astral elephants really do parade about the plains of Yesod, thanks to the much-invoked thelemic thought practice, at least when the tree is approached in the spirit of the Western magical tradition. Whether they are visible to Jewish Kabbalists is another matter. Martin Buber and Gershom Scholem, 2 of those most responsible for reviving the increasingly obfuscated Qabalah within their own heritage, might well rebuke the interlopers, though I hope to be corrected on this point. The cuckoo child has built its own nest now, and its host parent is once again freed of its uninvited presence. In the new tree described in these pages, an ever-changing network of consciousness has formed, like a telephone exchange in which conversations on particular topics can be tapped. Within this system, all that was invested in the original Judaic model remains, but the correspondences of all mythological and religious traditions are also found here, equal in relevance. Along with various types of magical working and thought processes useful to the spiritual pilgrim. So too, with the input of its travelers, Jews and non-Jews alike, the Qabalah is the embodiment of this far-reaching and indeed infinite eclecticism. The present age is one founded on shared information, the mixing of ancient currents, both intellectual and spiritual. Even gender roles are changing, our personalities and looks becoming more androgynous, with the essential spark of polar magnetism left intact. Science is being brought into conformity with will, allowing a soul to sculpt its own body. It is becoming possible to experience life paths vicariously through informed empathy that we never would have believed in before. Travel is contributing towards this lessening of insularity, allowing us to perceive firsthand the living modes of other human beings on the planet. Cultures are mixing, influencing one another, and creating new music, style, vocabularies, and thought patterns. Computers have caused an explosion of creativity and initiated an info-fest. Everything is merging. That the Qabalah and other magical systems should become commonly accessible was inevitable. With millions looking for ascension, every channel must be opened, a fact of which the late great magicians who first brought it to our attention were well aware. However, I feel sure that Eliphas Levi, Israel Regardie, Dion Fortune, and other original exponents of the craft would be the first to blanch at some of the side effects. Those early masters' emphasis was on strict training and self-discipline, with comprehension their highest priority. In this epoch, it can be more experiential, and dare I say it, random. I learned the old way, but times have changed. There is no reason one should not dip in and out of the Sephiroth in experimental mode. Do it like an old-school magician and be deeply ritualistic if you like, or follow where the fool of your imagination leads you. That's the spirit of the new age. One-to-one, individualistic, creative, no need for intercessors or superfluous protocol. As for respect, I hope that goes without saying. Whatever the era, the Tree of Life stands with its crown in the Ein Sof Or, the endless light, and beckons to those who desire to scale it. Since it is nearly impossible to broach magic in the Western Hemisphere without a good working knowledge of the Qabalah, aspirants must approach the tree at some point in their education. To Dion Fortune, Qabalah was the yoga of the West, better suited to our lives and bodies than the Eastern art, and indispensable for attaining coherent magical form. It provides a form of deep introspection and meditation. There is a path or sephira for every facet of the human psyche. It provides a means of accessing energies and even entities for magical or practical use. The original Qabalah laid emphasis on the day-to-day application of its practical wisdom and on seeking out the divine spark in the apparently mundane. Of course, for observant Jews, the significance and symbolism of Hebrew letters and names, literally, is the mainstream of daily life. But for many unversed in the language, comprehension of its surface and deeper meanings has been a struggle. It need not be so abstruse anymore. Most of the necessary experience can be attained through interactive meditation, and this is the purpose for which the visualizations in this book have been formulated. They are intended to impart maximum information and benefit with minimal confusion. This, in turn, will spill into the practitioner's psyche, and its conscious application to self and dream analysis, for example, will bring it into the provinces of practical Qabalah. The inclusion of tarot symbolism performs a similar role. However, for the sake of clarity, this book should be considered a primer, as opposed to an exhaustive treatment of the subject. I have avoided the esoteric sciences of gematria, temura, and notarikon, which strive to attain meanings from the numerology and lettering of key words. No doubt these and other ramifications can be of great value to those already conversant in the key symbols and correspondences of the Sephiroth, but simplicity and easy access to the material was the central goal in the preparation of this book. For those who wish to continue into the more esoteric dimensions of Kabbalistic lore, some of the more detailed tracts are mentioned in the bibliography. Nor are these excursions magically dangerous. They will, however, open up gateways to a great flood of experience. That said, do not undertake them if you are quite content with the way things are. Working with the Qabalah is like handling a psychological growth hormone. It gets under your skin and enhances certain areas of the psyche. Which areas are affected depends on the practitioner's state of being and active mental and emotional affiliations. The exercises are designed to stretch and flex the psychic muscles, to progress the soul in one's personal and cosmic context, and to familiarize the participant with the key traits of each of the 10 Sephirot, the apples on the tree's branches. Some ideas for psychic self-protection are given in the next section. Preliminaries to all exercises. Before any occult dealings, it is sensible to protect oneself, not because the procedure itself is necessarily perilous, but because there are many entities around, and magic opens you up, makes you more sensitive to them, and they to you. Just as one would not arrive in the jungle without having had the appropriate inoculatory jabs and being equipped with mosquito spray, a hat, food, and a knife, it is madness to travel to the inner planes without any protective devices. For instance, one of the systems relevant to Malkut is the acquisition of magical weapons, and such a process is given in the Malkut visualization. As well as taking on weapons, one can form a protective sheath that should prevent them having to be used in the first place. This also protects from the more insidious entities on the inner and outer planes. There are several ways of doing this. A traditional occult method is to enlist the protection of the 4 guardian angels, Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and Uriel. Occult authors such as Gareth Knight can furnish the interested reader with traditional methods for this and many other operations. Alternately, you could envisage yourself surrounded by cosmic energies, as such. First, face to the east. Send a request to the cosmic intelligence that your application for protection be heeded. Do not continue until you truly feel that it will be so. This serves to prevent haphazard workings when one subconsciously knows that the time is not right. Now, envisage a pillar of radiant yellow light before you. Feel how it shields you from face-on attack. Behind you, sense a powerful pillar of blue, protective light. To your left, a vibrant pillar of red vigilance stands your guard. To the right, a black pillar prevents negative forces from reaching you. Starting with the yellow pillar, visualize a ring of blue flame reaching out and catching the red pillar. Let it spread to the blue and black, and back to the red, until you are completely surrounded by a circle of fire, keeping off the wild beasts of the cosmos and acting as a beacon to benevolent energies. Seal the tube with blue fire beneath the feet and above the head. Another means of protection is courtesy of one's personal guardians and guides. Definitely easiest if you already know who your inner guides actually are. For example, a bona fide guru, few and far between on this plane, or an enlightened being such as an avatar of Christ consciousness, Buddha, a Krishna embodiment, or even the Master Jesus if you are so inclined. Here I am not describing the suburban myth of these god forms, but their true, vibrant selves, very unlike the mundane expression we have constructed for them. Only you can know whether or not you have the energy, purity, and visualizing ability to make a true, non-complacent link with such great ones. A regular god form is less effective, as these are specific to particular parts of the tree. Only those who can be felt to have attained the Ein Sof Or, which for our purposes here can be said to be equivalent to the Buddhist nirvana, or some other ultimately transcendent state, are suitable consorts in every realm. Although it is important to be discerning, never be afraid to the point of inhibition that you are duping yourself, as practice brings results. As long as you're not dictating to others or believing in everything you perceive, it's okay to flow with it. With trial and effort comes experience, and when we create the appropriate channel, the gods come. As the magical adage goes, fantasy is the ass that carries the ark, and its asinine nature in no way detracts from the reality or potency of its load. A less personal approach to self-protection involves bringing the protective energies of the non-specific cosmic consciousness into service. To do this, stand facing east, take 4 deep, slow breaths, puffing out strongly and simultaneously envisaging all the tension leaving your body in dark billows, while your lungs begin to glow golden from the inside. With each breath, the glow increases until, with the 4th exhalation, your body is glowing brilliantly. Now, tense and flex every muscle in your body, feeling the golden light creeping into its every tissue and bone as you do so. Soon your cells are alive with this vibrant prana. Above you, The ceiling has turned a brilliant yellow-white. A crackling electricity has infused the room. Visualize the light strongly so that your inner eye is dazzled. Feel the presence of the divine dreamer, the fusing of your two consciousnesses. Feel the excitement of the vastness that is. Imagine a door in the back of your head, in the lower region just above the neck. Now, draw that energy down and look through the door. Surround yourself with this energy. Affirm that it is solid and pure, and that any negativity directed at it will bounce straight back at the sender. Visualize a bolt of black bouncing off the surface of your body sheath. Be sure to concentrate on front, right side, back, left side, underneath, and overhead in turn. Let there be no part unprotected. Let the golden light be ever renewable. Now, unless you wish to be totally conspicuous on the inner planes, tone the color and brilliance down, but maintain the resolution, leaving you armored in dull silver gold, with a warm feeling within. It is a matter of personal inclination which protective technique is preferred. Malkuth will help you develop further tools, though weapons as such are anathema to the type of process we will be undergoing. This journey is one of respectful, joyous exploration. Hopefully, you will never require weaponry for more than their symbolic purpose, and at this stage, you can rest assured that you won't. The Four Worlds. There are 4 layers in Kabbalistic cosmology, each representing a different aspect of reality. All of the Sephirot exist simultaneously within the fabric of these layers. At present, we find ourselves in the world of Asaya, the layer of physicality and action. Here, symbols are perceived in material form. The spiritual luminary Tiferet, for example, appears here as the sun. The occult symbol of Asya is the bull, and its tarot suit is of course pentacles, a link to the earthly value that coins and other hard currency represent. In the system I have used in this book, Asya relates to the 4 page cards found in the tarot. Yetzirah, the next step up, represents the formative stage in creation. Its Sephirot are those forming the inner body of the Qabalah: Yesod, Hod, Netzach, Tifareth, Gevurah, and Hesed. The orders of angels, deities, and god forms belong to this level. Yetzirah's symbol is cerebral man, and its tarot suit the intellectual swords. In the system I use, the 4 knights belong here. Yetzirah's symbol is cerebral man, and its tarot suit the intellectual swords. In the system I use, the 4 knights belong here. The creative receptive level is known as Bria, and to it are ascribed the archangels. The Sephirot encompassed in this level are Bina and Hokmah. Its symbol is the eagle and its tarot suit cups, and the 4 queens correspond to this level. Finally, the layer of Atziluth represents the highest conceivable proximity to God. As far as the tree goes, it is composed of Ket-Er. Some ascribe both Ket-Er and Hokmah to this level. Its attributes are the archetypal world, or the world of emanations, the lion symbol, and the suit of wands. The god names manifest through this level, and I prefer to associate the 4 kings of the tarot with Atziluth. These 4 worlds represent the thought of God coming into being, descending through the planes from the very refined and conceptual to the solid and physical. Of course, it is in the world of Asaya, the plane of physical fact and action in which we abide. But the whole nature of Qabalah aspires upward towards Ket-Er in Atziluth, the ultimate Godhead. A key point to this aspiration is that this supreme state of divinity may be found at the heart of the apparently mundane. Malkut is not only as important as Ket-Er, but it also reflects and contains it. Likewise are all other Sephirot interlinked, composed to a greater or a lesser degree of one another. Each Sephira exists on all 4 of these levels, hence the 4 different colors, popularly referred to as the flashing colors, ascribed to each. Visualizing the Qabalah as a whole. Probably the easiest way to visualize the tree as a whole is as 10 symmetrically positioned colored spheres, or Sephirot, each glowing with its own particular properties. All of the Sephirot exist on all of the 4 levels. They are arranged into 3 columns, the middle of which is the longest and lowest. The columns to the left and right each consist of 3 regularly placed spheres. As you approach each Sephira in meditation, you will feel yourself being drawn into and assimilated by the position and color of that sphere, quickly leading you to its inner properties. To visualize the Qabalah as a whole, and thus establish a map for your later meditations, first envisage yourself surrounded by a tent-like sphere of 4 colors, as if you were inside a giant juggling ball or beach ball, its segments yellow, green, dark red, and blue respectively. You are standing at the center of this construction. Their colors unite at the top and bottom of the sphere, at the points above your head and beneath your feet. Facing you is the yellow sector, refreshing air. To your right is the red of fire. Behind you is the cool blue of water. To your left, the verdure of green earth. Make a concerted effort to invest your sphere with the elements. Be aware of the fresh, redolent earth, the sighing, lapping ocean, the crackling brilliance of fire, the relief and freedom of air. With the wind comes the spirit world, whose denizens are all the beings who abide with us, yet are rarely perceived by us, nor us by them. Some of these are elementals, others restless spirits caught up in their personal woes, long obsolete in the worlds from which they came, but still fresh as yesterday's dreams. Still others are intelligent entities on missions between the planes. Some, of course, are good, some neutral, and others malign. Obviously, any occult work increases one's sensitivity to the astral spirit realms, and psychic self-protection is a good anti-spook device. The Qlipot abide in the Sephiroth as entities engendered by an imbalance in the spheres. Certain areas have become populated with Qlipot, whose sustenance is this pernicious, because imbalanced, energy. These prana-draining mosquitoes of the spirit realms are troublesome, but can be kept at bay using the simple techniques described above. Inside this tent of 4 colors exist all material things, and everything that you connect with your life as an individual personality, especially those aspects which are obvious to your waking mind. The tent, as you have no doubt gathered, is symbolic of the first station of the Qabalah, Malkut, the kingdom. Drawing your map of the tree. Now, to begin your mental map of the tree, focus on the properties of the Earth Kingdom, of Malkuth. See your abode, personal space, you do not have to own it, your possessions, your work. Think of all the practical skills you possess, and those you would like to develop. Consider those companions with whom you have the most dynamic and enjoyable conversations. Feel your animal presence in this realm. The stamping of feet usually facilitates this. Prepare to explore, knowing that you are strong on this most fundamental of levels. When these thoughts are established and you feel ready for anything, you are ready to progress, or regress, to Yesod. This purple-silver orb hangs directly above you, like a strange moon whose tides you know on a semi-conscious level, but whose laws elude you. It reminds you of half-remembered dreams which slip away under scrutiny. You know you will have to induce a semi-conscious state to tune in to the reality of Yesod. Lie down flat on your back on your bed, arms to your sides, shut your eyes, and focus on the inside of the middle of your forehead, at the top of the bridge of the nose. Allow whatever thoughts and images you have to float through your mind and drift away. Now, think back through your life to those events and personalities that have affected you. Try to maintain objectivity while doing this. View these life memories as you might someone else's televised biography. Try to observe any patterns or astral networks you may perceive cropping up. See your soul in silver, ascending the line which connects Malkut to Yesod. As you ascend, feel the increased lightness of being, a shedding of burdens, a mental holiday. Here, all is less personal and more essential. It is by inner nature that all is defined on this plane. The beautiful and the strange process before you on this level, and many seem familiar, like the forgotten paintings of childhood. Others give you the feeling of dreamy déjà vu. Did you dream them only yesterday? Don't fall asleep. There are further tasks to perform. Now you must fly to the strong orange sphere of Hod, which hangs above you to your left. Still lying on your back, concentrate on traveling up and to your left. Even on thinking this, the subtle forms of Yesod disperse and seem unreal again. In Hode, you know there lies a defining strength that emphasizes rather than romanticizes the inner nature of things. Take time to perceive the qualities of Hode, a very different genre compared with those of Yes-Ode. This is the realm of mental energy, the seat of empirical learning, patience, and effort. The geniuses and thaumaturgists of our realm are strongly affiliated with Hode. Note how, even on so brief a visit, you feel a similar respect to that which you might if, visiting the British Library, you suddenly discovered that all the Nobel Prize winners were gathered within. The atmosphere is distinctly intellectual, but do not be intimidated by your own shortcomings in that respect, or overly proud of your own achievements. Any entity worth its protoplasm knows that intellect is a component often latent in the human condition, and that emotional intelligence is its equally worthy counterpart. Many to whom Hode is a natural abode have lessons to learn in the more emotional and often practical spheres. Here, ideas manifest in the abstract, and civilization progresses to the ticking of the mental clock. Feel yourself assimilating these qualities, along with the deep burnt orange of their vibration. As Charles Seymour says in his magical diaries, every day the magician should ask him or herself, "Is my brow wet with mental sweat?" For it is a vice of the magician to spend time creating fancies rather than progressing. And when the temptation to stray from the path of mental evolution is particularly strong, the defining qualities of Hode will help us turn our back on fanciful distractions. After the effort you have exerted in the close atmosphere of Hod, you will be pleased to take a break in the verdant greenery of Netzach. There is a strong relationship between this sphere and our own Malkut. It is fairy country. Those who are attuned to nature will be very at home here, and the urban pagan will find a refuge cheaper and more accessible than a trip to the countryside. Reach Netzach by traveling right in a straight line, or, if you prefer, touch down on purple Yes-Ode, slightly below and to the center of your line, before ascending to brilliant green Netzach. You may undergo some discomfort, like the change in pressure when diving underwater, but do not be alarmed. Remember your strong protective armor. Relaxed, still supine and smiling slightly, explore the Sephira. In the earthy, elevated natural world of ultra-green Netzach, refreshment pours forth from the ground and is innate in the vital elements celebrating themselves here. To a true Taurian, this is home, with its ingredients both nurturing and natural, a place steady yet creative, rewarding considered participants in the dance of life. Consider the most sublime aspects of your love life, past, present, and future. Allow the ensuing feelings of pleasure to infiltrate your heart and soul. This beautiful fairy realm is the starting place of many a true romance. Its qualities are rapturous, enchanting. Opposite a sun of white-hot radiance, aureoled by rainbow hues, the violet moon of Yes-Ode hangs in the sky. Energy is everywhere. You can feel the force of every object you encounter pushing out, externalizing. Perspective here is not what we are accustomed to. Angles follow strange rules of elfin geometry, and many objects seem out of kilter and likely to slip through dimensions at any moment. A large seven-pointed star hangs in the blue-purple sky, along with other celestial bodies of deep, buttery yellow and startling silver. Here is the perfect place to recline beneath a tree, like Omar Khayyam, and write or dream about the lifting of veils, the dissolving of Maya, taking part in the emotional truths inherent to the religious urge itself. Abide here for as long as you feel inclined. There is plenty to explore, and many paths of fancy to be skipped along. This trip to Netzach should leave you feeling sprightly and inspired. Next stop, Tiferet. Remember the sun of Netzach? It hangs above you, to your right, and you are going to surf the cosmic ley lines that attach it to your present station. Imagine the line linking the green orb with the yellow. Feel yourself positioned at its base, and then, by the power of your will, feel yourself impelled along it, slanting upwards towards Tiferet. You enter through the outer atmosphere and feel a change in your constitution as you do so. This is a mystical realm of elevated love, of soulmates and infinitesimal beauty. It smells of strange, heavy, entrancing perfume, one likely to make you lose your head at any moment. Remembering Malkut, however, you resolve not to do so. This is the Leonine sphere, and it emanates strength, solar power, and love. Healing is performed here and sent down through the planes. If you have any requests of this nature, now is the time to divulge them. There are many golden beings of light ready to receive every twitch given off by your thought processes. If you can focus your wishes and visualize the desired end, so much the better. Bask in the life-giving properties of Tiferet and feel the excitement they engender. This is also a good place to visit when faced with a difficult choice or decision, particularly between two possible paths. You may, if naturally psychic, find yourself involved in high-level communications of an emotional nature, as opposed to those more academic concepts of Hode, with a particular guardian. Try to maintain equilibrium during this procedure, and especially afterwards. Pride is one of the pitfalls of this level, and self-respecting humility a boon. As you find yourself heading for the red sphere of Martian Gavura, you may feel arrogance rising in your blood, for you have seen and experienced much on this short preliminary journey. Do feel strong, but try not to approach Gavura in a bombastic manner, or you will have the stuffing knocked out of you. Gavura is, on a microcosmic level, the harsh part of ourselves, necessary for self-protection. Here we can shed what has become obsolete in our lives, rid ourselves of unwanted influences, and fill ourselves with warrior strength. Travel up and to the left. Note that everything here is red. The tone is either positively sanguine or sacrificially bloody, depending on your personal state of being. The forceful atmosphere of Gavura is a philosophy in itself. Denoting war, it embodies possibly the oldest impulses of man, to protect and acquire. Consider these properties and their ambivalence. Uplifting and courageous, the spirit of Gavura has frequently degenerated into wanton cruelty and destruction. Still, for those with a gentle nature, possibly self-sacrificing and too emotionally generous, Gavura provides a healthy antidote to self-dissipation. Theoretically, Gavura is one of the seats of justice, especially when counterbalanced by Hesed, and it should be possible to have wrongs righted courtesy of this sphere, if the powers deem that they are indeed wrongs. It is not a particularly pleasant stop, but its might is impressive. Walls, forts, and military constructs define it. Stone, metal, and spilt blood are its main components. This is, of course, the sphere in which wars are fought and lost, or won. Before it all gets too much, let us counterbalance the experience with a visit to the calm blue sphere of Hesed, also known as Gedula. Travel up and to the right. This blue-violet sphere is also known as the mercy seat or the temple of love. It is the abode of gurus and masters, and the atmosphere is at once challenging and reverend. You may well hear an inner narrative while visiting Hesed. Chances are it will instruct you. As obedience is one of the virtues of this station, it is well to follow the dictate you feel is authentic. This is a place of dedication to a path or discipline, an astral hermitage. Here you may consider your life's greater purpose and the steps necessary to secure its coming to pass. This will involve effort, for the rewards of the gods are not easily earned. However, one's shortcomings should be given a sympathetic appraisal in Hesed. Meditate on the following theme. The nature of gurus is various, but it is fair to say that the number of true gurus incarnate in Malkut today is minimal. While there are many false prophets and unsavory self-proclaimed spiritual leaders who are more likely to lead us into the abyss than to the bright lights of Keter. It is foolish to trust such figures on the outer planes, but on the inner planes, one's intuition may be employed. There is too much room for confusion on the material level, where countless forces prevent us from making accurate judgments, but with the help of one's guides in the sphere of Hesed, disinterested help may be sought. The guru, devoid of personal motive, is so rare, especially in the West, as to be unicorn-like in its elusiveness. Still, it is good to know that such beings exist somewhere. Hesed is quite a solemn place, with an atmosphere akin to a court of justice. It will be a relief, especially to feminine spirits, to prepare to ascend further still, this time into the bitter, receptive sea that is Bina, the most menstrual of female planets, at once pregnant, menopausal, and steeped in mystery. Placed at the top of the left side column, Black Bina feels as if it might at any moment absorb all of the other Sephiroth into itself and fold creation up like Sylvia Plath, reabsorbing her children in her poem Ariel. Indeed, one of the paths to Bina is pathological, born of deep neurosis and masochistic pain. However, in a balanced state, Bina is healthy, understanding, compassion, the ability to empathize. Try to free your mind of analytical thoughts. Center on blind feeling. Allow thought forms to rise in your mind as you intuitively explore this dark Sephira. Bina has a very special relationship with female mysteries and goddess-related issues, and emanates primal femininity in its most potent aspects. Bina flows with the tides, and women often access it through lunar Yesod, though this path is not commonly or deliberately used. There is a telling silence in the atmosphere of Bina, a tacit sense of knowing. Much is thought here in the caves of intuitive and atavistic wisdom, and little spoken. The light of Keter bathes the top of this sphere, which revolves and sends reflections scudding across its dark, miasmic surface. The heat of Gavura filters up from beneath, but there is no reflection of its brilliant red. This is absorbed into the dark seas of Bina's strange antimatter. Abide here for as long as you feel comfortable. Note your reactions. Do you feel at home, claustrophobic, restricted? Do not interpret these reactions yet. Simply feel them. You can write down your experiences and interpretations when you return. Opposite this disturbing yet restful sphere, rather like a graveyard just prior to mass resurrection, Stanley Spencer's paintings, though bright, evoke this atmosphere admirably, hangs the grey sphere of Hokmah. Journey straight across to your right. Meditate on the following. Hokmah is the top Sephira in this vertical column, the so-called Pillar of Mercy, and is solemn as a cathedral, while still joyous, for the goal of the ascent is imminent. The creative intelligence permeates this sphere like hallucinogenic incense, and faith in oneself and the benevolent nature of the sublime infiltrates the still soul. The traditional imagery, as with all of the tree, is deeply biblical. Needless to say, the system is peopled with rabbinic men, bearded and with robes, for the imagery is archetypal and born of thousands of years of Judaism. However, the mind conversant in many cultures should not find this an obstacle. Alternatively, it may translate to your own inner tongue and imagery as quickly as a spiritual linguaphone. Take what comes to you. As time goes on, the impressions will change and deepen. Remember that Hokmah is the place where one identifies one's own Yahweh, Buddha, Vishnu, Isis, preparing for personal dissolution in its most positive form. Such tasks are not lightly undertaken, and there is a nervy feeling in the air, for this is the vestry that leads to the temple of God. There is also a sense of great accomplishment within this sphere. The living light of Keter is growing ever more attractive to you, the astral pilgrim. Standing in the grey stone vestry that is Hokmah, you yearn toward the light that has informed you during the entire journey. Your mind flicks over the 9 stages you have so far accomplished, the rise from earthly Malkut to dreamy Yesod, the left turn to determined Orange Hode and right turn to Emerald Netzach, the island, or mythologically Tir na Nog, of the tree. You recall the solar resplendence and beauty of Central Tiferet, then the left-hand turn to bellicose Gavura. Remember how pleasant it was to zig from there to Hesed, the violet-blue home of guides and gurus, then zag to dark Bina, place of female mysteries. Now, here you are, at the top of the right-hand pillar, so close to the light you could almost touch it. Feel yourself drawn upwards at the very thought of it, up into the impossibly resplendent temple of Keter. White light engulfs you, pouring in through your now permeable astral armor, dissolving it, though it will return when you descend, filling you with divine acknowledgement. Let this be two-way. Draw yourself close to your God, however you imagine the creative source. Give, do not just take. Stay bathed in this refulgence for as long as you feel inclined. Vaguely aware of the veils of negative existence above you, those aspects of the creation for which our minds can only draw an analogy of concealment. When you are sated on Keteric's light, it is well to bring yourself back station by station, thus recomposing your nature and grounding any energies you may be bringing back with you. So, Zigzag back through each of the radiant spheres. If you can do so without my prompting, all the better. To travel back by memory will help fix the positions and qualities in your mind. If this proves too difficult, then reread the process described prior to visiting Keter, going backward, starting with Hokmah and ending at Malkut. Encountering the in-house divinities. Before entering any Sephira, it is beneficial to apply for permission from the powers ruling it. This is not strictly necessary, but it will help fix some of the traits of the Sephira in your mind, and it is good form. The first trait is of course the expression of God in the Sephira, known by a different name according to its aspect. The second is represented by the mighty archangel, who presides over the sphere and its qualities, while the third is the order of angels. In all cases, these are very specific levels of energy, personified in order to make them more easily accessed and identified. Giving anything a title and imaginative form helps to classify and thus clarify it. Each section in this book includes details of the God aspect archangel and order of angels to be found within each Sephira. Many of the descriptions of the angels will seem peculiar to the Western perception, accustomed as it is to images of tinselled humans descending from the heavens, or else of winged being made of golden white light. Angelic images may be built up telesmatically, using the properties of the letters in the entity's name in the world to which they are ascribed, or they may be visualized in a simpler, more generalized way. The manner of building these images depends on which technique gives you, the practitioner, the biggest bolt of psychic lightning. The names of the energetic personalities are translated letter by letter using a code of telesmatic attributions. First, the Yetziratic or celestio-physical details, such as whether or not the energy is mystically construed of as winged, then the color of the energy. We learn a great deal from the color details, such as affiliation to other Sephirot and elemental qualities. Elemental, that is, in the highest sense, these properties are far removed from earth, air, fire, and water as we know them in Malkut. Each Sephira exists on 4 major levels, as described at the beginning of the section on visualizing the Qabalah as a whole. These reflect the impulse of creation from its archetypal expression in Atziluth, at which point it is very pure thought, through Bria, where the concept is created, into Yetzirah, where the concept grows and becomes evident, and finally through to Asaya, where it manifests in its fully tangible state. These stages are represented by a different color in each Sephira. Likewise is each deity force attributed to one of the 4 different worlds of the tree. When translating the name keys of these energies, this is taken into account. The letter Aleph, for example, is the first in Ashim, the choir of angels in Malkuth, and the penultimate in Raziel, the archangelic force of Hokmah. Its general properties are the same in both cases, denoting a highly refined, airy form. However, in the former case, it manifests predominantly as emerald, a color particular to Netzach, which denotes elemental properties relevant to Malkut, while in the latter it is celestial sky blue relating to Hesed, the sphere of mercy. Though many of the ingredients might be the same, I doubt that 2 telesmatic images ever agree on every point. Indeed, the task of describing the energies is a tall one, even with the prop of telesmatic codices. Imagination is the vivifying ingredient. Without this, the telesmatic images are a lifeless Frankenstein's monster with a bit pulled from here and a bit taken from there. And because imagination is deeply subjective, everyone's telesmatic vision will be a little, if not very, different. Energies may be subjectively perceived through the filter of what is palatable to the onlooker, but it is closer to the celestial bone if they are visualized at least approximately as their name describes. Consequently, a practitioner may, for example, find themselves confronted by androgynous angels of green, purple, and blue. These are certainly not angels as we popularly perceive them, but rather concentrations of very specific types of divine intent. Essentially, they are security guards ensuring that the tree remains in creative equilibrium, intelligent, independent entities honed to particular functions. The descriptions I have given are necessarily limited, intended to give the subconscious a few accurate clues rather than the consciousness a full, empirical description. The Qabalah itself does not operate on that level. As with all such exercises, it is for the participant to tap into the source.